Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gridiron Glory here with Will and Tad. We cover all 32 teams for the NFL, and we give quality content and great takes based on the highlights and stories of the 32 NFL teams. And today we'll be bringing you a week two recap featuring the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing at the Detroit Lions, with the Buccaneers coming away 20-16 victors. Um, Not a super flashy day for Baker Mayfield, but he made the plays you have to make to win a football game. 12 for 19, 185 yards, one touchdown, one interception, and also five rushes for 34 yards and a touchdown. As I said, not the most flashy stat line, but a quarterback that when you're in a close game, you know he's going to do what he can to make the plays to win the game. And against a very strong Detroit defense, he did what he had to do, and they made the plays they had
He's
to
also
win that game.
got sacked 5 times.
He also was sacked five times. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson was an absolute beast in the game. He had 4.5 sacks on his own. So one of the greatest defensive line performances we've seen in the first 2 weeks of the season. Definitely credit there, making life difficult for Mayfield. But in the end, I mean, it was Tampa Bay. They had some quality of work by their receivers, specifically Chris Godwin, who had the vast majority of the receiving yards for Tampa Bay, 7 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown. Um, and considering they only passed for 185 yards in total, that's a rather impressive stat line for Godwin. He definitely won the matchup there. Um, Tampa Bay, even though they came away with the win, the one concern on offense I'd have would be their run game. I mean, your starting running back, Rashad White, gets 10 carries for 18 yards, 1.8 per carry, and then Bucky Irving, the rookie, gets 7 for 22, 3.1. I mean, you'd want your running backs to average a little more yards. So definitely some work needed by the Tampa Bay offensive line there. They got worked a bit by um the Detroit defensive line. And again, that's more so credit to Detroit as well. They have one of the best front sevens in football. So the Tampa Bay offensive line had their work cut out for them, and it wasn't always pretty there, but in the end they did what they had to do. And looking some at their defense, you had Jordan Whitehead with his 11 tackles. You had some other quality performances by Jamal Dean, 7 solo tackles, 10 total tackles, also deflected a pass there, and a pair of interceptions, one by Christian Izine and one by Zion McCollum. So you got the turnovers that you needed. So yeah, overall the Buccaneers defense, they did a great job. They shut out a very good Detroit offense in the fourth quarter, made several key stands at the end of the game to come away with a big victory there.
Yeah, really big victory. Detroit, really couldn't really get anything going in the first half of this football game. And then by the time, they did, it was, kind of a little too late. And kind of interesting how neither team, it was 20-16 going into the fourth, and then nothing happened after that. Well, I mean, just a lot of defensive stops back and forth after that. So Tampa Bay's defense ultimately being able to close out the game at the end. But yeah, I was super impressed by what I saw from Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield going out there looking extremely confident, going out there on the road. This was a revenge game from last year's NFC playoff showdown between these two franchises. So Baker Mayfield certainly went out there. He looked poised. He looked ready. He looked, hyped up. This was a Buccaneers team that was ready to go really from the start. And they went out. They were ready to go out there and hit these guys right in the mouth. And I mean, they did just that. So both defenses really a strong showing in the first half, but Tampa Bay's defense really a strong showing most of the game. And then yeah, you mentioned it. Chris Godwin, the big play from Chris Godwin. So just exuberating on Baker Mayfield's confidence and just how well-rounded this football team really looks in Tampa Bay. To be able to go out there and get a road win against a team that was in the NFC Championship game a season ago. Yeah, I was very impressed to say the least when it came between the Bucs and the Lions. Jordan Whitehead, a huge addition on defense for this Buccaneers team. 11 total tackles, 8 solo, and a tackle for loss. Christian Eisen, 5 solo tackles and 2 pressures as well. Zion McCollum, 6 solo tackles and 4 quarterback pressures. So, yeah, Tampa Bay's defense just really went out there. They made some big plays when they needed to. They looked strong. They looked poised. I mean, Tampa Bay just went out there with the game plan. They went out there with the game plan and they executed on it. For Detroit, they just got out. I mean, really, they just got mostly outplayed by this Buccaneers team. And then the 2 interceptions by Jared Goff really hurt as well. Yeah, I really liked what I saw out of Jahmyr Gibbs. A lot of explosiveness out of him. And then obviously the big fantasy day per se for Amon-Ra St. Brown. 11 catches, 119 yards for Amon-Ra.
Yeah, definitely one of the top receivers in the league there. A big game for St. Brown. And I mean, they passed 55 times in the game. Jared Goff was 34 out of 55 for 307 yards, no touchdowns, the 2 interceptions there. So that's a game where they just got behind early and it felt like they were chasing the entire game. And I mean, they didn't commit to the running game enough. When you have 56 passes and 27 runs, that's just not a very good balance. I feel like the Detroit offense, if they were more balanced, then they would have had a better chance to compete in this football game. But they tried to have Jared Goff do everything, just pass the ball, pass. And if you get your running backs more involved, like Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, who scored the only touchdown of the game for Detroit, if you get your star running backs involved, then you can lean on a very good offensive line and just move the ball.
I don't mean to interrupt, but like 13 carries for 84 yards. I mean, that's pretty heavy involvement from Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, he had some carry, but I mean, I'm just looking at the discrepancy in run versus pass. I mean, you pass almost twice as much as you run, and that's just something that stuck out to me specifically. But Gibbs did what he could when he got the ball, but I mean, I just feel like they could have ran the ball some more even. And I mean, I'm not trying to take away from what Gibbs did. He had a solid game, but just 56 passes is a lot of times to have Jared Goff go and do what he can do. I mean, that's putting a lot on your passing game. And credit to their offensive line. He had 55 passes. He wasn't sacked once. That's a big credit to their offensive line. But with that being said, that's a lot of passing. Stuck out to me.
A lot of passing indeed. And yeah, so there you have it. Tampa Bay goes on the road. They beat Detroit 20-16. Couple of big games coming up next week for these 2 franchises. Really hot start for Tampa Bay. They're in a really good position. They're now in control of their own destiny. As you say, they're probably one of those teams, and they're going to have a chance to really be in control of their own destiny yet again next week against an 0-2 Broncos team. And then Detroit, it's going to be a very feisty matchup between Detroit, Jared Goff versus Kyler Murray. Boy, that's going to be an NFC showdown on Fox on the Sunday afternoon there. So here we go. We're in it, week 2, and we're getting the ball rolling with this thing. So yeah, Tampa Bay wins 20-16. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and comment down below. This is the Gridiron Glory, where we cover all 32 teams.